And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say, maybe next year. I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make harness out of hay, wire, feed sacks, and shoe scraps, who planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then painin' from tractor back put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to yean lambs and wean pigs and tend the pink-combed pullets, who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. So God made a farmer. It had to be somebody who'd plow deep and straight and not cut corners, somebody to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake and disc and plow and plant and tie the fleece and strain the milk, somebody who'd bale a family together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing, who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. So God made a farmer.
He gets up before the dawn, packs a lunch and a thermos full of coffee. It's another day in the dusty haze, those burning rays are wearing down his body.
I'm Steve Kerner. I've been farming and ranching my whole life.
Price of gold, it's the cheapest grain he's ever sold, but he's still holding on. He just takes the tractor another round and pulls the plow across the ground.
Hi, my name is Brent Combs, 41 years old.
He says, Lord, I never complain, I never ask why. Please don't let my dreams run dry.
I'm Rich Fott from Hamel, South Dakota, and I'm 55 years old.
Amarillo sky. That hailstorm back in '83 sure did take a toll on his family.
My name's Richard Kerner. I own a ranch south of Berkeley.
And carried on just like his dad and granddad did before him. On his knees every night.
My name's Greg Rakin. I'm from Stockman's Livestock, Yankton, South Dakota. Been auctioneering for around 25 years. Been in the cattle deal all my life.
He just takes the tractor another round and pulls the plow across the ground.
Kevin Van Gendren. Bought livestock for many years. Been in the business since 1974.
Don't let my dreams run dry. Underneath this Amarillo sky.
The business of farming and ranching has been around from the beginning of time. Everyone in the world needs a farmer every day in their lives. It may not be the most common or well-liked occupation, but it is one that needs to be fulfilled by an individual that is strong, smart, hardworking, honest, and dedicated. Farmers and ranchers feed the world, and everyone depends on them for food. Did you eat today? Well, you better thank a farmer. As we know, farming has been around forever. Something you may not know is how much it has changed.
I guess the biggest change that I've probably seen in my lifetime is the advancement of no-till farming. You know, when I was a kid, all the ground was either disked or plowed black before it was planted into corn. We used a piece of equipment called a lister to plant corn. In those days, it would plant the seed in the ground, but then between the rows it would throw up a mound of dirt, and then after the corn would germinate, after a few weeks, the plant would be, I suppose about 4 inches tall, and then we'd go over it with a tractor mounted piece of equipment called a Go Devil, which would dig out the weeds between the rows, and it would still leave that ridge of dirt there. And then so that would get some of the weeds, and then a few weeks after that, after the corn got about a foot to 16 inches tall, we'd go over it again with another tractor mounted implement called a cultivator, and you could go pretty fast with that, because it would take that ridge of dirt and it would dig the weeds out, but it would also take that ridge of dirt and throw it into the corn row and cover up the weeds that were right in the row, so you could get most of the weeds. But today, that's all different.
Not only has the techniques of farming changed, but there are things that have been introduced to the agricultural aspect of life that allows farmers to raise better, healthier crops.
For instance, the previous year, like if you have wheat planted, after the wheat's combined, you go in there with chemical and you just kill the weeds. So then the next spring when you plant corn, you use just a top planter. It just plants the corn in the ground, and then all the weeds are controlled with chemicals. Where the old method, you'd maybe get, I'd suppose 80% of the weeds, whereas with chemical you can nearly get 100%. It's drastically improved with the chemicals.
Looking at the machinery side of things, a lot has changed there as well.
The comfort of the operator has changed a lot. Used to be we were out on an open tractor without any heat and air, and now we got cabs and 4-wheel drive, and used to have 2-wheel drive tractors. You had to put chains on in the wintertime so you get around, otherwise you'd slip and slide. Now you got 4-wheel drive you can kick in, and you got heat and a cab and air conditioner.
Nowadays, the newer tractors have really special features, including auto steer. Due to technological advancements, it takes fewer farmers to produce a significant amount of food. 200 years ago, 90% of the population farmed. Today, only 2% of the population. And 50% of those farmers are 55 years old.
When I started out as a boy, I used to mow and rake hay with a team of horses. And then as we progressed, we bought a H tractor and an M farmal, and we worked with 2-row corn machinery, plant corn with a 2-row machine, and you'd have to cultivate it 3 times. Then you'd have to pick it with a 2-row corn picker, leave it dry, and then you'd have to shell it after a while with a sheller. And as things went on, we got bigger machinery. We got 4-row machinery, and still had to do all the cultivating and stuff. Then in later on times, we had no-till came into being. And all you'd have to do then is just spray the crop, the weeds, and use a planter, no-till planter, fertilizer. When we worked with 2-row machinery, we'd be lucky to grow 25 to 30 bushel corn. Now you can look forward to maybe 100 bushel corn with the no-till. And then they can go with combines now with 8 to 12 row heads. You can pick more corn in an hour than you could in a day with the pickers, and a lot less labor. One man can do way more cover 1,000 acres a year, and we could do 100 acres in the old days.
Advancements in seeds and how they are planted and harvested are also some major changes. Farmers now grow 262% more food than what was grown 65 years ago. This is good, considering the population has grown from 2 billion to 7 billion since 1933.
I'd say back in the 80s, probably the corn yield average we had was 50, maybe 60 bushel on a real good year. And now, even if it's a little bit dry, we can usually get over 100 bushel per acre. The genetics of the seed are so much better now than they were then, not only due to the advancement of Roundup Ready seed, but just the hybrids, the genetics in the seed have just drastically improved.
Crop insurance has also been a helpful tool to all farmers.
Now they got crop insurance, which makes it a lot safer to put the crop in. You got a little bit of insurance. Back in the old days, you planted it all at your own risk. There was nobody backing you.
There are so many things that has changed in the farming world over the years, anywhere from techniques to equipment, but there are also some things that haven't changed. Although advancements in farming have made the work easier, there is still a lot to be done, and there is always something to keep you busy. Farming has changed so much in the last 100 years, but it's not the only thing that's changed. Ranching is another area that has drastically changed over time. Feedlots is an area of ranching that has grown and has also changed its ways.
One big change has been that the amount of time it takes to finish out cattle. A long time ago they used to run them 3-4 years on grass and then butcher them. And as it progressed, as farming started, then we started feeding them grain, and then they'd run them as yearlings and then finish them out fat. Now, calves can be fat 13, 14 months of age. They can be fat and ready for a butcher. So it speeded up things up to 2 years sooner than what it used to be. Another thing that's changed is the feed additives. There wasn't no protein fed to them or anything. All those things contribute to why it speeded up finishing them. You've got your additives that make them gain more.
Feedlot owners have a different approach as to how they feed the cattle nowadays compared to before.
The way we feed them has changed a lot. We used to do a lot of it by hand with buckets and measure out the feed. And now we got feed wagons with scales on them, and we can put on exactly the amount we need for each group and go out and feed them, and mixes it all up. We used to have to hand feed them the grain in bunks and then free choice them hay, and now we can give them all a complete ration right in the bunk. And
cattle themselves have changed greatly over time. The breeds of cattle and their maturity rate has changed as well. Ranchers also have an option of either breeding their cattle with bulls or artificially inseminating them.
Back then they had mainly Herefords, and I know in the late 60s they always fed them out all the way. Took them all the way to fat cattle, and I think they fed cattle till 68, and then they quit. And then they started selling background and calves. And they sat there like they're heifers and that. They didn't calve them as 2-year-olds like we do now. They calved them as 3-year-olds. And I suppose some of that was because they weren't as growthy of a cattle, and they probably had some trouble with calving difficulty at 2s, since there wasn't anything like EPDs, or nobody probably even paid any attention to birth weight. They bought a bull, and as long as they had a calf, that's what counted. Probably in the late 60s, they started a few Angus bulls. So they had some black white-faced cows. And they switched to using longhorns on their first calf heifers and calving them out as 2s to get the smaller calf. And as time progressed, that changed too, because that longhorn calf wasn't worth very much. And with the change of people keeping a better track of what they had for bulls for low birth weight, they started using bulls that had a little lower birth weight. And then in the mid 70s, probably 75, they started using limousine bulls. A few black on our heifers. We did breed them black. Had them longhorn at first, and then like I said, the calves were little and you were discounted. And so then we started using black bulls, Angus bulls, on the first time heifers. As time progressed, we started using AI on heifers because of the advancement, like in EPDs, you could pick a real good heifer bull and not have much trouble. And so the last, probably, I don't know, 10 years, we've AI'd our heifers. Another footnote on breeding now, as far as breeds, it is predominantly Angus or black-hided. A lot of people sell them as Angus influenced, but the exotic crosses was from the 70s to the 80s. Charolais, Simmental, Limousin, I suppose there was some Galvey, exotic breeds crossed in there. And now it's predominantly pretty much Angus. Everybody's breeding Angus.
Another area of ranching that has changed is the way people sell their cattle. They can still be sold in a rink at a sale barn, but they are also sold on video instead of physically being there.
The way we sell them is different. It used to be that pretty much everything went to the sale barn or you sold them to the packing plant. Now you can sell them privately on the internet. You can sell them on video auction. You got a lot of them still go through the sale barn, but you can even bid online at the sale barn, which would have never heard of that. Would have never dreamed that would be, you could buy cattle out of your living room on TV.
When cattle are sold, there are many things that the buyers look for nowadays that they might not have paid much attention to in previous years.
I think they're probably a little more particular about the quality, the condition of the cattle, is to have them not fleshy, something that you can grow up and make them weigh 1,450 pounds. And just a lot of disposition. They're looking for a livestock that's not as wild and just a bigger framed, good doing type animal.
As every rancher knows, the livestock market isn't something that stays steady. Although the prices for livestock increase gradually over time, it still has a lot of fluctuation.
The cattle market and things have been changing over the past few years. Price is definitely higher. I'd say, on the drug-free end of it, you're looking at a lot of the cancer that's gotten to be a big deal in the past few years, getting bigger and bigger in more cases all the time. You're seeing more people move to the all-natural or the organic or drug-free cattle, as we call them. And you're starting to see a larger number of that going overseas. A lot of customers, and a lot of them believe in some of the antibiotics and hormones that they're putting into some of the food, that they believe that that's why the drug-free thing's taken off in this country.
It's always been a supply and demand game, but I think the Board of Trade getting involved in the livestock business has probably done us a lot of harm, especially in the last month or so. We've seen our feeder cattle market drop $15 in 5 days. They dropped them the limit.
About the same. When we started out, a calf was worth about $100, and now they're up around 1,000 or better. So.
The progression of vaccines over the years has helped the livestock stay healthy and has aided in preventing diseases from happening.
Back then there was no thought of vaccinating anything or anything. They just caught them and branded them for ownership, and now cattle are worked 5, 6, sometimes more times in their lifetime. They're vaccinated and revaccinated and boosted.
The milking industry is another area that has had a big change over the years.
360 degrees to what it used to be. I used to do it all by hand, now it's done with machines.
Believe it or not, cell phones and other technological advancements have played a major role in the farming and ranching industries. It has allowed for better communication, and advancements have allowed us more productivity.
Cell phone is wonderful. I spend probably in a 8-hour sale, I'd probably spend 5-6 hours on the phone. I'm on the phone probably more than I'm not. It's to me, that's been an awesome tool in the business. It used to be every time you had a phone call, you'd run to the telephone booth. Well, that day is over, so you can at least stay sitting in your seat.
As you can see, there is more to farming and ranching than what meets the eye. In order to fulfill these jobs, you need to be dedicated to what you are doing while at the same time taking pride in your land and livestock. Family farms are the most common farms, and they are the most reliable because they have a strong bonded relationship. Appreciate farmers and ranchers, and next time you see one, thank them.